All right, you can go live. That's on the call. My name is Visa Kabaka. I'll be facilitating the session this evening. And certainly we have our guest, Lelemba Phiri, on the call with us. And we're very excited to have Lelemba join us this evening. I'm a big fan personally of Lelemba, listening and learning from her. So I guess, again, many of you are here not because of us, but because you want to hear some of the experience and knowledge. And if you are in the right place, I can tell you that you're here for the Khula Growth Club. And again, we'll give you a little bit more details around what you can expect in future sessions as we continue these sessions. We'll also talk a little bit about our role as we kind of roll out these sessions going forward. So, Khula, I've got your message. Let me kind of make sure that you are good to go there. Let me give you, okay, there you go. You should have hosting rights now. So hopefully you're there. Okay. So as we kick off this evening, you're really gonna learn quite a lot. So just to give you, there's an agenda that we'll go through. Bongi, you can kick off on our side. I've got you on my chat just to follow the slides on that side. In case you're wondering where you are joining Khula Growth Club. This evening we are in conversation with Lelemba Phiri. Really is around there, no boxes. So she'll unpack a lot more. And again, in our briefing call, we did kind of say, please, you know, this is a platform for you to kind of share your wisdom. And again, we try to create a unique experience for everybody that is not the typical kind of program that follows a scripted conversation. We're here to learn from each other and more specifically, here to learn from Lelemba as well. We have some simple rules to the webinar. So I'm gonna just quickly go through those rules. I think the first one is, again, keep your mic and your video off. This is to serve both your experience, to improve the quality of experience over the course of the next 60 minutes as we kind of deliver the formal kind of element of the program. It gets a lot more open later on. So you'll have a chance to switch on your mic or your camera during the Q&A around 6:15. Again, if you have anything, please send a message, private message to me. I'm on the Hyper group. Links, so send me a message and we'll handle it there. Yes, the call itself as well is very open, so we're here to interact. So if you're getting lessons, as the lessons happen, please feel free to share your thoughts openly on the chat boxes. At the same time, if you've got questions that perhaps might direct Lelemba's attention during her presentation or during her talk, also don't be shy to just consistently be engaged. Just because we're not allowing cameras and mics doesn't mean that we're not looking for the interaction. So we want you to constantly be sending messages on the chat and interacting with other participants in terms of the lessons that you're learning, either based on what you're hearing being said or particular clarity that you potentially want. If you have any more questions related to these sessions, you can send an email to webinars@smtax.co.za. And yes, this session is recorded and will be streamed. We are oversubscribed, so we do anticipate that other people might just join the experience either on YouTube or Facebook. Again, just in case there's any media on this call, we want to make sure everybody speaks freely during this call. So we don't want people quoted in the media tomorrow about what they said. So the media, please, everything is off the record. If you want a quotation or comment, feel free. We can arrange for you to get that time either with any of our speakers or any of our partners in the session. So thanks again for everybody's understanding. We have a very short agenda this evening. I've gone through the rules for you. I'm quickly in a second going to talk about the objectives of these Khula Growth Club conversations. In fact, one of the things that you definitely must know is that we're looking to host these bi-monthly. So every Thursday at 5 o'clock. We already have details of our next one, and we've got an exciting program that's coming up as well for August. We'll then kind of quickly say a quick thanks to the people that have made these sessions possible. And then we'll get a 10-minute insight from the new CEO of Startup Services at SM Tax, Me Bongi Webeja. And that will kind of be the segue to Lelemba's kind of talk around there being no boxes. And then at that point, we'll then open up the conversation for some Q&A and some interaction. And then we'll close off in the last 5 minutes with basically what you can expect next. We've got a nice, exciting kind of session that follows the week of the 23rd of July. So again, welcome, and really excited to have you all on board, and thank you for the support. So again, as we kind of go through this, as we do these introductions, please feel free to tell us where you're joining the call from. Feel free to tell us a little bit about the business that you're working on, or some of the challenges you're faced with, or some of the things that you need. This is the whole idea of this, is that it's a platform, no politics, just entrepreneurs supporting other entrepreneurs. So the objective of these Khula Growth Club sessions ultimately is to convene for new possibilities. Again, ensuring that the growing through uncertainty is a possibility. And again, getting new ideas, and again, receiving a fresh new perspective to the new normal that we all are experiencing at the moment. This is also a peer support network, and growing with the support of SM Tax and HIBA, our partners. And again, a commitment to economic participation for all. I'm quickly now going to play a quick short video, again, to hopefully illustrate that for everybody. I think we lost the sound, Bongi. we tested this out earlier, so
my name is Lelemba, and
there's a setting that changed.
I'm in love with the concept of Khula Fridays. And the reason for this, I think, when I was introduced into it, you first listen and you try to understand what the concept and idea behind it. And as I think one of the words they use at Khula is that it's a concept of Ubuntu. We grow together. It's all about a place where we're young professionals. We get in, we talk to other young professionals, and in that we get, shall we say, a atmosphere where we can share ideas without fear. By the way, many of us forget that when you're in business, there's always that fear. But meeting other young entrepreneurs and just sharing ideas and going together, for me, it's brilliant.
So again, thank you, Abongile. As we've said, we are a network for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, looking to support the growth and development of other entrepreneurs. So again, join us and continue to be part of these conversations and discussions, so that we can all enjoy those benefits. You can move on to the next one, Bongi. It looks like I'm in my own head here. You've gone too far. I have to thank the sponsors of these sessions. Thanks, Bongi. So we've got two of our partners and sponsors who've kind of come together to make these sessions possible and free to you to enjoy. So thanks to HIBA and SM Tax. Bongi will talk a little bit during her presentation about SM Tax. On my side, I'm not going to say much about HIBA. It's a business that I'm a partner in, and we only too grateful for the opportunity to be participating and getting to do this. So thank you to the team at SM Tax for just embracing, new ways to support not only your network of amazing clients, but also supporting the growth of the ecosystem on an ongoing basis. Over to you, Bongi.
Thank you, Vu. and officially welcome to everyone that has joined this webinar. It's very exciting for me. I've recently joined as the CEO of Startup Services at SM Tax, and quite excited about the idea of the Khula Growth Club. I think entrepreneurs deserve a space where they can freely share what it is that's top of mind, and as you all can agree, entrepreneurship is a source of economic growth, and it becomes quite pertinent during these times. Myself, my name is Bongiwe Peja. You can call me Bongi though, like it says on the screen. I come from an investments background and made a change after completing my master's in development finance to do all things development, and very proud to be associated with a brand that is SM Tax, and I'll be heading up the Startup Services division, though SM Tax has three pillars really. There's Startup Services, Business Support, and also Personal Finance for those of you that require. We're a market leader in digital tax and accounting, and I know the word digital is often used as a buzzword, but really the use of technology for us allows us to gain efficiencies, but we really do pride ourselves in having a human connection with our entrepreneurs, because at the end of the day, we understand that it's a person that's running the organization. There are brands that have trusted SM Tax over the time that we've operated. These include Old Mutual, FNB, APSA, showing that even though we're playing in the space of small business, even large corporates, like these banks and other institutions I've named, trust us with either bookkeeping, tax, and compliance. The team at SM Tax is made up of accountants, actuaries, economists, development finance specialists as well. So we're well equipped to serve entrepreneurs. But really my job tonight is to share some key insights. And the first thing is, because we're in this time of the pandemic, I think that it affirms our existence as SM Tax. We are a firm believer that entrepreneurship is an engine for economic growth. And so all our efforts are towards making sure that the businesses that do trust us stay afloat and are sustainable. If you read any local or global report on entrepreneurship, you'll see that access to finance is listed as a key issue for entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter what report you look at. And there's always a tension between what the entrepreneur can offer and also what funders require. I think this is why it's so important for you to invest in your company's accounting, bookkeeping, and compliance. And you can partner with a company like SM Tax. There are about 18,000 entrepreneurs that we've assisted, some of which even during this COVID pandemic, where there was some funds, you'll remember that government has opened up for SMEs, and the opportunity cost of not having invested in your compliance becomes huge, because no funder, not even government funding, will look at a company that has issues with CIPC compliance. If you're not compliant on your tax, or you have issues with SARS. And also one of the main things that they ask is for your financials and management reports. And if you're running a good business and that side is not in order, you could lose that very access to finance that you're crying about. And so we're here as SM Tax to offer you that support, so you have that peace of mind that you're funding ready, you're compliant, and you're able to access the funds when they do make themselves available. And we basically go on the journey with you, not only with compliance, but on the various stages of your business. So at the very beginning, you'll probably liaise with me, since, as my title suggests, Startup Services. But as your business grows, even in the growth trajectory, we've got business support packages where we can help you. So Khula webinars are also an avenue to have real engagement and insights from entrepreneurs. And what is it that you want to have as a service suite? Is there something that we could add at SM Tax that would assist you on this journey? What conversations would you like to have? So please open up, use the chat function here, and we'll also use these webinars for some knowledge sharing sessions as well. I think Vu will share with you what's happening on the 23rd of July, which will be more of a practical knowledge sharing session. But tonight we've got Lelemba, who's an amazing powerhouse. She's an angel investor with extensive experience in the very challenge I highlighted earlier, being access to finance. And she'll talk more about the fact that there are no boxes, but the box that I do need to impress on you as entrepreneurs in relation to SM Tax is, do tick the box of CIPC compliance, do tick the box of SARS compliance, and let us help you journey on as you make your business afloat. But that's all I have to say around boxes. I'll allow Lelemba to share her powerful message with us as entrepreneurs. And yeah, officially from me, a huge welcome and thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, Bongiwe. Thank you so much for having me.
Don't jump the gun. Let me do my job,
sorry.
I know you are a powerhouse. Can I do my job, okay?
Yes,
before we head over to Lelemba, I think it's important that if you just so happen to stumble across this particular session, to just get a sense of who Lelemba is. I mean, really, for me, you know, I've known Le for a very long time, and really I've always been impressed by her mission. In fact, back in the day, and I'll reveal secrets, she was the finance queen, the guru of financial literacy in Cape Town, and running really financial literacy sessions and working with people on building their personal wealth. And again, she's continued that work now through the Africa Trust Group, and you know, eventually has kind of evolved a lot of her interests. And at a certain point, she joined Zuna, which is arguably one of the fastest growing mobile payments companies in Africa, where she was a director and continues to be a shareholder and looked after marketing. So you have someone who has a background in corporate and continues to serve the team at Zuna, which I think is more like family to her, as a continued kind of shareholder and director. Her journey has since evolved, and she now sits as a principal and a general partner in a gender lens investment fund called Enigma Ventures, which already is committed to investing in excess of 100 million rands, again, primarily towards women in entrepreneurs in the SADC region. So again, if you find yourself to be a female entrepreneur looking to grow in SADC, in South Africa and the surrounding countries in the SADC region, really it's a very important conversation for you to have in kind of listening and understanding Lelemba's general wisdom and thought. And she's had a journey and a half. Just this morning, she shared an amazing story of the genesis of her journey, literally from the time she was 18, and how she's kind of shaped up her life by taking chances and opportunities. So again, do follow her on Facebook if you've got her access to. During this COVID period, Lelemba and the team have put together a COVID response fund called the Shift Fund, which has committed over 20 million rands in investment capital for the post-pandemic solutions. And I'm sure, regardless, I mean, Lelemba is the kind of person who's just open, especially if you're a female entrepreneur, to supporting and innovating. And together with her husband, have also created a community of knowledge and learning called Startup Circles, which is Africa's #1 online accelerator startup school. And if that was not enough, and I said to her jokingly last night that in her spare time, and she laughed, in her spare time, she's a mom to 2 boys, a wife to another ecosystem builder, Sandra Phiri, and a PhD candidate. So I think just reading a lot of these things and just trying to understand where does she get the time, you just get tired. Yeah, I'm just tired now. Like, oh, give other children a chance. We're so eternally grateful, Lelemba, to have you here, to have you really kind of spend the time to, again, always to be a teacher, to be a coach, to be a nurturer, and just really just to kind of give you a piece of yourself. And like I said last night to you, we're not here there's plenty of courses we can take. We can sign up to Startup Circles for courses. We are here to hear your heart. And we're here to hear what you have to share with us. So now I can say officially over to you, Lelemba.
Thank you so much, Boo. I'm really grateful to be here. I think that these are such good spaces for having intimate conversations. I love how these calls were set up. I think when I was being told about how this is this works, I got really excited because these are the type of real conversations that are so important to be having as an ecosystem, you know. And so thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here. So I want to talk today about boxes, and for us to think about how the way we identify ourselves and how the roles that are ascribed to us by society and how some of the roles that we ascribe to ourselves, whether it's based on gender, whether it's based on our jobs or our titles or marital status or our race, really have the potential to lock us into boxes that can stifle our growth. I think this can happen whether at an individual level or at a business owner level if we're not conscious of what is going on around us. And it's important at some point to make the decisions to really start to lead from within. And this is a continuous journey. It's not like a magic tick box or a switch that you can just switch on and keep moving on. This is something that you have to continuously kind of keep checking in on yourself, you know. And so, because making a decision to lead from within and to shed all of these unrealistic expectations that come with these roles and with these titles can really free us up to experience growth at a more exponential rate. And so I will first share like 5 key phases of my life, and I guess key turning points for me, which have enabled me to really shed some of these boxes and live outside of the shackles of what a box can really do for you, you know. So yeah, that's defining moment number 1. Growing up, you know, I was born and raised in Zambia. At the time, I guess up to now, a lot of African cultures, I think, prioritize boy children. There's a lot more of a celebration when a boy child is born than when a girl child is born. And I used to get that sense growing up that there was that kind of feeling. You'd overhear aunts and uncles when a boy is born say things as clearly as, oh, now you have a child. And I'd be very surprised because maybe this aunt has got 2, 3 daughters already. And the excitement that would happen when a boy would be born. So when I was young, I think around age 4, 5, I really decided that I was going to be a boy. I didn't know that you didn't have a choice what gender you are. And I decided I was going to be a boy because it seemed to be more fun, it seemed to be more valued, and it seemed to be what was a lot more respected. And so I really used to want to act like a boy. I wanted to dress like a boy. I would move around topless. I wanted to hang out with my dad a lot more and things like that. Until about the age of 8, I was one of those early bloomers. So my boobs started coming in quite early. And my aunt, who's actually in the picture there to the right, that's me and my dad in the picture. And my aunt was there on the right, said, you can't move around topless anymore. And I was quite surprised as to why I couldn't move around topless. And I said, why? And she said, because you're growing up now. And I said, but Dad is the most grown-up person I know, and he still moves around topless. She said, yeah, but Dad is a man and you're a woman. I said, no, but what if I want to be a boy? She said, no, you can't choose. You're either a boy or a girl. And I found it quite devastating and disempowering to feel like I didn't actually have a choice in this matter. Like I felt like, oh, so now I can't even wear a top, and these are the limitations that are put on girls. And it was a moment, I guess I was probably 8, 9 there, that was devastating because I feel like there will always be these limitations then based on my gender. And I was heartbroken for a number of days. And at first, everybody thought it was funny. But my parents had a conversation with me, and my dad stressed the fact that whether you're a boy or a girl, first of all, for him and my mother, they valued us equally. And 2, you could do anything that you wanted to do. You could have anything that you wanted to do, whatever gender you were. And he particularly, I think, which was a very important thing, he stressed that there was value in both genders for his children, and that he wanted to invest. He invested wholeheartedly in both genders for his children. And for him, he never saw the difference. And for us to go out into the world, presenting ourselves with the fullest knowledge that we are loved and supported. And so for me, very early on, that's where I kicked the gender box. And I stopped limiting myself based on this is for girls and this is for boys. My circle of friends has always been heavier with around men. I've worked a lot with men. I've worked in male-dominated industries, and even my circle of friends, because I just haven't limited it, and I didn't take gender as something that holds me back. And I think it's a very, very important message that I try to raise even my own sons with. I've got 2 teenage sons, and it's something that we try to instill in them to respect all genders. You know. So that was when I first kicked my gender box. Who talked about that picture? Growing up, I had a very entrepreneurial mother. Back in the day when entrepreneurship was not even fashionable, you know, everybody was trying to get a cushy job, and she decided to quit her job, even though she had what you would say minimal education in terms of she had a secretarial certificate after high school, and that was it. And you know, if you had a secretarial certificate, then you needed to be secretary in a big job. And she had that for a while, but she really had an entrepreneurial flair. And she decided to quit her job and get into entrepreneurship, where she built successful businesses. And so for me, growing up, I grew up around an entrepreneurial woman and thought entrepreneurship, particularly female entrepreneurship, was quite normal. And my mother passed away when I was 16. And it was a rough patch for my father and myself. He remarried fairly quickly. I was a little bit of a rebellious teenager. And so I got kicked out of the house and I moved along to other relatives. But finishing my matric, I loved numbers, and I've always loved numbers. I've loved money. I knew that I wanted to do accounting. And so I started doing accounting, but I had to contribute to paying my fees because I was living with my cousin who was a young woman herself and had her own family responsibilities. And so whilst a lot of the kids I went to school with, to tertiary school with, might have come from more cushy backgrounds, I was working and doing side hustles in order to raise money for my school fees. And so this picture is from my first formal job. I applied for this job from a newspaper. I remember a cousin saying to me, nobody really gets a job like that. You know, you have to be somebody or know someone who knows someone in order to get a job. And I found that really difficult to believe. And so on that day, I sat down, I probably did something like 25 applications, and I was called in for a few, and I got this job. It was such a small job, if you think about it in the grand context of things, that other people thought it was small, but I was super, super proud of this job because I literally just applied in a newspaper. I went for an interview and I got the job without knowing anybody. And so for me, this was the point where I kicked the second box of being burdened with, you need to have a family name. I didn't have a family name. I just came from an ordinary family. You need to have a family name in order to succeed, or you need to know the who's and who's in order to get into particular circles. Sometimes when the door is not open, you just need to find your own lock and use your own key to open that door. And whilst a lot of my peers at this point might have been getting big jobs in auditing firms, I was okay with this job because it gave me such great experience around the full stack of money management in a business, from being a cashier on the till, to reconciling of bank accounts, to really learning how to manage business. That at the point, I was probably 19, 20 here. I stayed in this job from the time I was 19 to the time I was 22, on and off, going to study and coming back and going to study and coming back again. At some point, my boss even left to go to India to get married, and he left me with the business to run. And so it gave me such valuable lessons that I've used throughout my career, running larger businesses, everything from how to provide a great customer experience to how to manage teams, came from such humble beginnings, or what somebody would say are humble beginnings. And so the lesson here is to not believe that your background is a disadvantage. There are advantages to any background that you come with, and to value that and to add that to the wealth of the knowledge and value that you bring to any organization. Sometimes we feel just because I'm coming from a township or I'm not a who's and whose child means I'm less valuable, not knowing that it's that wealth of background that can add value into an organization with a different lens, because you are coming, seeing and looking at things from a very different aspect that you can bring to any table. Defining moment number 3 for me was getting married. Because I was a very rebellious young lady, I had almost been told it would be very difficult for me to find a partner. It would be difficult for me to find a partner. And I remember sharing with an aunt that I wanted to pierce my nose. And she says, oh my God, as it is, you are really difficult to deal with. And now if you pierce your nose, nobody's ever going to marry you. And so when I met my husband, that's the story I shared with him. And he was really surprised as to why that would be an issue. And so he said to me, that's interesting. So let's do this. Let's get married. When we get married, the very next day, I'm going to take you to a piercing place. You can pierce your nose, and then we can change the narrative around things like that, around being yourself and accepting yourself. And so for me, that's when I shed the box of wife, of what is an African wife supposed to be like, what's an African wife supposed to behave like. I think for young women, especially, a choice of partner is really should be taken as a career decision. It's something that I read in Lean In, and I cannot stress enough how I see that replaying itself. And so who you give ear to becomes important. Who is speaking into what you can do and what you cannot do becomes really important as you're shaping your business and you're shaping your career. And so for me, finding a partner who was accepting of my ambitions and accepting of even my rebellion was quite an important step for me, and really made me decide what type of wife do I want to be, and am I going to let the traditional narrative, the common narrative, drive how I want to run my relationship, or is it something that we're going to decide for ourselves as a couple? And it's driven us to making some bold decisions, the career moves that a lot of people frowned on. A year into our marriage, we decided we wanted to move to South Africa from Zambia and set up businesses. We were young and naive and super ambitious, and we quit quite high-paying jobs to make that move. And although there was a lot of naysaying and fear around that decision that came from the family, it was more important for us to listen to our own voices. And we were 27 and 29 when we made the move. And we decided we're young enough that if this thing doesn't work and it fails, we can always come back home and do something different. And so even with roles and titles such as being a wife, it comes with so much heavy stuff. A wife must do this and a wife must do that. I think it's important for you to really think about how do you create your own narrative about what you want that to mean for you. So this was my first job in South Africa. When we moved to South Africa with my husband, we had good savings. Being 27 and 29, we partied up a storm when we moved, and we ran through our savings, which were probably supposed to last us 12 months. We ran through them in 5 months. And at some point, at the lowest point, we had 347 rands left in our bank account, and wondering how we were going to pay our 500 monthly rental in a room. Actually, it was a weekly rental, 500 rand weekly rental in a room that we were living in a shared house in Tableview. And so in the nick of time, 1 million applications out, my husband got a job that week. And the week was really right at the end of the month. He probably started his job on the 25th or on the 20th. And so he worked for 5 days and got paid for those 5 days. And that's how we managed to pay our rental. But this was my first job in South Africa, working in the oil industry. Getting this job again was another story of people saying, oh, this is a male-dominated industry, and there's very few Black people working in this industry, and how are you going to get in? For me, that was a challenge, actually, because it made me think, why shouldn't there be? And so pushing through those barriers, I put through so many applications to the oil industry because it's the industry I wanted to be in. There were so many opportunities around being able to work in many African countries. In fact, that picture is from Angola. And I wanted to get into the industry, and I eventually got this particular job, and I was super excited. And that was my first job. It gave me such valuable experience working around African countries. I worked in 8 markets during the time. And I focused a lot on really, even as an employee, as a person working in a corporate, I focused a lot on how can we get more girls into industries such as these, because it used to really perplex me, like, why don't we have more women in industries like this? I focused a lot on training up a lot of women to rise up the leadership paths, and so we could have more women at decision-making tables. And at some point, I got just really despondent and a little bit tired. I loved numbers, but I hated accounting. I really hated accounting. I hated having to do the same thing at the month end every month, and it drove me nuts. I'm a very social person. I love teaching, as Vu has alluded to, and it used to really drive me nuts being behind the computer and the desk a lot. And so I quit that job and decided to try my hand at entrepreneurship. Obviously, making such decisions gets a lot of opinions again. And I had been a chartered accountant for 10 years, and the voices were so many. How are you quitting a big job like this to try something that you don't even know whether it's going to work? Or you're not even South African, so how do you think running a business in South Africa is going to work out for you? Because you're not even BEE enough to be BEE, you know? All of those voices were starting to play. And you've worked so hard to be a chartered accountant, and now you just want to throw everything away. And I spent 2 weeks in bed crying when I quit this job, wondering who I was, because suddenly the identity that was so important, being a chartered accountant that I was so proud of, no longer felt relevant to me. It wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and it wasn't who I wanted to be. And so in that moment, I spent a lot of soul-searching time, thinking about what next, and how do I identify myself. And eventually, I just followed what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach about financial fitness. I wanted to empower women around really managing their own money and growing wealth, and thinking about how you can take a lot more ownership on how your money is being managed and grown. And so that was the roots of my entrepreneurial journey, running financial fitness workshops. My first workshop at the waterfront was so people. I was super, super proud of it. I wrote an ebook on it that went viral so quickly. It was shocking. And it was on that path that I met the Zona team very early in their growth process. And I joined the team because I saw how I could help create value for that business. And so when it comes to the label of entrepreneurship and the box of entrepreneurship, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about entrepreneurship is that people believe that to be an entrepreneur, you need to be the one who starts the business, and you have to be creative, and you have to be the one that comes up with that big idea and gets everything moving. Entrepreneurship comes in different shapes and sizes and different talents. Entrepreneurship sometimes is looking at a team that is existing and seeing that there is a gap and there is value that I can add into that team to make this business bigger. And that's what I did when I joined Zona. I saw that there was scope around really helping grow the brand and redefining what the brand stood for, I saw that there was scope for thinking about customer centricity and really getting connected with who the customer was. And in our conversations, this was value that I pitched. And we had an amazing team. I mean, from the get-go, I was offered equity, but it was part because it was clear for me to start with what value I was going to bring to the team. And this is values that I convinced the team that could be brought. And we walked the journey together for 7 years. It was an amazing journey. I mean, lots of growth and lots of lessons, because in entrepreneurship, I got to play so many roles in the company that helped me see how do you actually really build a business. And in our journey, we raised financing of all kinds, from family and friends to grants to bank loans to family and friend loans to equity, Series A, B, C. And we grew this company from 1 market into 4 markets over the years. And that picture is one of the highlight points, I think, when we had just opened up a second country. We were set up in Malawi, outside of Zambia, and I was heading up both Malawi and Zambia as the managing director. But what happens again in moments like this is I was 33 in that picture, being a managing director for quite a big fintech that was in 2 countries already at this point. And this was at an event at CTICC, which was live on CNBC, so it was being screened across Africa. And the very next day, I woke up and there was a horrendous tabloid article written about me and my family and my background and my children, because for a lot of our culture, success for a woman can be frowned on, unfortunately. And so many things labels were applied to as to how I became successful and how could I be the managing director for a big organization at my age and stuff like that. Even then, deciding which voice in moments like those you're going to listen to, and these are things that you will experience as an entrepreneur. Maybe your business is close to folding, and you are fearful that everybody is saying, aha, we knew that this journey was a bad idea, and now you see where you are. You need to decide which voice you're going to listen to and what box you're going to box yourself into. It was a moment where I could have, gotten into a small box and closed myself in and decided this is not for me. Maybe I should just get back into corporate where I can be silent and be unseen. But I really charged on. And the more important thing at that point for me was to have a conversation with my teenagers who were growing, because my older one at that point was probably 11, 12, 13, and the younger one is 4 years younger. And he had access to internet. So I was concerned that he will Google something and find that article. And so I talked to him about it. My husband and I sat him down and we talked to him about it, and our younger one was there. But my son's response was, oh, that's not surprising, Mom. You are young and you're doing really well. It's not unusual to have haters. And that coming from a young teenager for me was really just like, it was inspiring, because then you know that there's something that you're probably doing right as a parent. Because it's going to be normal to have haters. Just keep doing what you're doing. And so even mothering, for me, the title of mother has been more of a friendship with my children and deciding how I'm going to carry that relationship. Am I going to be able to have those conversations with my children? Do I keep them sheltered or do I not? And these are boxes that you need to shed, because some of the way that we were raised in some of the homes, there was a lot about what the children should know and what they should not know. And everything has been about crafting our own path for us as a couple, but also for us as a family. So yes, in that question, have you ever suffered from pull her down syndrome? Yes, that is a typical example of a pull her down moment. And when the tabloid article was released, we didn't even have to comment as an organization, because it went completely viral. But there were people for the article, there were people against the article, and we just let them debate it out. And for us, we let the success of our business and be what spoke for us, and we just continued on our path all of my business partners were super supportive of me during that time, and so were our customers, and particularly our key agents who were more like our franchises. Yeah. And the final question is around, the final moment is around moving from entrepreneurship into investing. A key thing that drove this decision for me was the fact that in a lot of leadership spaces where I'd find myself as an entrepreneur, particularly as our organization got bigger and we were on bigger and bigger platforms, was at first I found myself to be one of very few women in a lot of places, and one of even fewer Black women in a lot of places. And I wondered why. And even within the portfolios of some of our investors, as deliberate as they were around looking at impact type businesses, a lot of times when we take a trip, maybe one of our investors invites us, it would be quite normal that I would find myself being the only woman. And I felt this was pretty disturbing. Like, what was going on? Was it because women were not setting up businesses, or was it because there was an issue around access to finance for women? And leaving entrepreneurship, so I left Zona middle of 2018 to set off into this investing journey. A lot of conversation in the investor circles was like, there just aren't enough investable women-led or women-owned businesses, which again I found quite disturbing. But the loudest voices that I was hearing when I was deciding to get into the investor space was, again, there's very few investor women, there's very few Black investors, very few Black investor women, and you trying to be a fund manager and an investor in South Africa when you're not South African is an issue. You're not BEE enough to get into this space, so you're not going to get any BEE money. So that is a box that you could also put yourself in. You can say, I'm a woman, I'm Black, I'm foreign, I'm married, I'm a wife. Am I, can I do this? But I focused on the problem. And because I'm really, really passionate about being a part of the solution to this problem, as loud as the voices were, I kept going. And I started looking first for women's businesses just in the Cape Town ecosystem and seeing where the loopholes might have been in terms of investor readiness. And I got onto the angel investing journey first, because when I left the company, I had some money of my own from Zona. So I had a good runway for personal expenses and some change to be able to dabble into some angel investing. And Vu is actually very instrumental on the investing journey, because he's one of the first people that I shared it with. And he got right into action. He's like, great, you're getting into this space. I'm going to introduce you into particular groups. I'll invite you to events, and quickly kind of got into action, galvanizing, introducing me into those particular circles, which was very refreshing from the usual voices that I was hearing. It's impossible to raise a fund as a Black woman. There's very few Black female investors in Africa. And where are you going to start from, and how are you going to do that? And so important again on this journey, in the boxes that we're putting ourselves to, is which voices are we listening to, right? And who are we taking counsel for? And so to kind of wind down, I'm going to leave you with three important questions, and then we can interact. Which voice are you prioritizing? Whether this is around how you are building your career, how you are living your personal life, or how you are growing your business as an entrepreneur, which voice are you prioritizing? One of the key problems that we found as investors is sometimes the issue with entrepreneurs and their businesses is they're trying to solve all problems, be everything to everybody, because they're listening to too many voices. No, because my friend also said that this is a problem, so we try to dabble in that problem. Again, my uncle also said this is a problem, so we try to dabble in that problem. What voice are you prioritizing? I think it's important to focus on a particular pain point. For me, my pain point has always really been around women's empowerment. And whichever way or route I've taken to shape my career has been on the focus on enabling the empowerment of women, whether it is around training women in an organization in order for them to get into leadership, or it's been around getting women to think about their personal finance so that they can be financially independent, or whether it's about creating entrepreneurship opportunities, which I did with Zona in the fintech, because we worked through an agent network, but we created entrepreneurial opportunities. And I pushed a lot to have women prioritized in our agent network, or whether it is investing in women directly. But what voice are you prioritizing? Are you listening to just like all the external voices, all the naysayers, all of the people who are going to say, you can't, because you're this, because you're that, putting all the labels that they can on you? And are you accepting those voices? So number one, which voice are you prioritizing? Number two question is, who are you taking counsel from? Lots of times, we take counsel from the people who have not even walked the path that we're trying to walk. We take advice on marriage from single friends. We're taking advice on fundraising from people who are not even entrepreneurs. We're taking advice about being, a good friend, or, setting off into a particular career from people who have not even tried to walk that path. So who are you taking counsel from? We all need counsel on the journey. It helps you shortcut your process to listen to people, but it depends on who you are listening to. Are the people who are you listening to, have they walked that path? What circles are you surrounding yourself in? And so that is important. And so the example I gave you when I got into the investing circle and having a conversation with Vu and saying, this is what I want to do, and him saying, great, I'm going to introduce you to these people, come to this event, do this. It meant that I could shortcut the process and my learning curve by hanging around with the people who are actually doing the thing that I wanted to do. And even in those circles, of course, you're going to meet a lot of naysayers, but you get to pick. And at least you're now speaking to people who are in the same game as you are. So where you're taking counsel becomes super, super important, whether it's at the personal level or at a business level. And the final question for today is, what box is preventing your growth? And this is something important to consider, whether it is your career progress growth or it is your business growth. What box is preventing your growth? For a lot of entrepreneurs, we find that, again, because we're caring so much about that external voice and how we are seen, or trying to put up a facade of success, that in a time like this, like during a pandemic, people are still being stubborn around pivoting their businesses and thinking about remodeling their businesses. We hear everything from, this is how I've always done it, to, but what are people going to think if I change how I'm doing things again? Surely, is that what should prevent you from really creating impact and creating business growth and creating success that can create value, not just for you as an individual, but a lot of people that you would be able to employ if you grew your business outside of whatever box you're sticking it in, So continuously asking ourselves, what box today is preventing my growth, I think puts us in a position to examine where we are and gives us an opportunity to be able to free ourselves from whatever that box is to getting more exponential growth. We can grow step by step, but we can also grow exponentially by relieving ourselves of some of these boxes. That's it from me. Vu touched on startup circles, and I think it's an important plug for me to put in here. For the entrepreneurs who might be thinking about starting in their journey, or who are thinking of growing and fundraising, having access to the right type of people to give you counsel and to help shape how you're presenting yourself for fundraising becomes important. So please register on startupcircles.ai. There's a lot of free resources around how you can grow your business, how you can start a business, how you can launch a business, and how you can fundraise. And you get insights into other people, how they're pitching, the feedback that they're getting to enable you on your own journey. So join us.
Awesome. So amazing, Lee. I know some of you guys have been sending us some messages, so that's probably for For people like Lemka, if you're paying attention, there's an opportunity for you to kind of take it on. I mean, so many lessons, but I think what I want to do is allow everybody just an opportunity just to kind of express themselves. You have a chance now in which to, firstly, what I would do if I was you, I would take a screenshot of Lelemba's details so that you can do your own thing afterwards. The second thing I'll do is, if you have a question, please put up your hand if you have any comments. So Lelemba has asked us 3 questions, and you can feel free to comment on your own thoughts around the 3 questions she's asked. So if you have some additional insights around A, which voice are you prioritizing? Yeah. I'm personally a big proponent of this, because I really believe, to your point, Liz, that, you know, especially, again, I'm sorry to say this, but especially amongst Black entrepreneurs, you'll have someone coming to you seeking advice. They don't necessarily pre-qualify whether or not you even qualify to give them advice. And there's a preconception around whether or not your advice will be relevant to the context in which you function, they operate. So again, you know, if you're really not clear about this, my own sense is that you really need to reflect on, again, to your point, the people who are shaping your life. You know, how is it that you get affected by certain people, yet you've got full control of your destiny, you know? And that's always a very weird thing, in the sense that, again, you do have people in society who generally are very full of opinions and are generally always willing to offer up their opinions as a form of advice. But the reality of these things is that they don't necessarily, at its core, really qualify what you believe, not only in yourself or the context of background. I mean, you know, there's so many examples one can reflect on where people were told no. I mean, I don't recall that ever meeting a successful entrepreneur who basically says to me, who everybody said yes. I've never met the person who said it. Not once, ever. Yeah. In all the time I've done this, I've never had one person who says, everybody said it's going to work very well. You know, this is a great idea. Pat on the back, good luck. You know, everybody lined up to kind of commend you. So you constantly are faced with naysayers. You constantly are faced with negative voices. The question, I think, critically that you ask is, whose voice are you listening to? So if anyone's going to comment, this is the time to switch on your mic. Don't be shy. You're amongst friends. We all are going through different journeys. And again, the whole life you want to say something? Go ahead, mate. You want to contribute? Okay. Khula, you have a question? Go ahead.
No, thanks.
Go ahead,
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I think you know, one of the things that
can hear you. Go ahead.
To me was your quitting of the auditing or the CA stream, so CA route, which is something that obviously sort of resonates with me as well. So I think I got a really good connection there with your story and how you handled that. But for me, I think ultimately one of my core beliefs is that, you know, entrepreneurship is a really difficult thing to get into, and growing a business is even harder. It really requires, in my view, really smart people that can think and solve problems at a complex and a quick environment level. And normally those people are stuck in corporate, working for other people, you know, or big companies. And, you know, so I always tell my friends that stuck it through to the CA route to take the leap of faith, as I call it, and start something and start new companies, because I think the smart people are what we need. We need them to stop living in comfort. So my question would be really like, you know, how did you handle that? I think obviously the crying in bed was one part of it. But really, how was your mental state? How did you handle it? And what kind of advice would you give to someone who has an inkling of that thought, but is so scared of that crying in bed? Because really, like we spent 7 years working towards that designation, CA, SA, or doctor, or whatever, or MTPSA, whatever the designation is. You work so hard, and once you get it and you think, but that's not what I want to do. This is not the profession really I want to be in. I want to start a business, but it's almost like studying a degree for 3 years and on your last year trying to change something completely different. How do you get around it, and how do you make that switch? So I'm really interested to hear the other part of the crying. So the non-crying part, the non-crying in bed part, in terms of how you handle that.
Cool. So I think in those moments, it's so important to think about your well-being. I really was hating my job. Like getting up was becoming stressful. I was getting a back pain that I couldn't explain until I attended this conversation on burnout. And I had 3 out of 4 symptoms of burnout. And I realized what was going on. And so thinking in the grander context, like, yes, I've invested 10 years in this thing, working in this thing, and this being who I am known to be for 10 years. Do I want the rest of my life to be, stuck or defined by this? And so really thinking about that helped me work through, like, how do I want to live the rest of my life? I was 31 when I quit. I was 31, so there was a long way to go, and I just was miserable, and I didn't want to be miserable for the rest of my life. But 2, having a good support system. During the 2 weeks of crying, my husband fed me lots of chips and wine, and I got through that. So having a good support system of people who can walk with you, and whatever way that means, whether at a personal level or at a business level, starting to find people who can mentor you, who can help you shortcut the next thing that you are doing, becomes super, super important. And like you say, entrepreneurship is hard, right? And it's not entirely for just smart people, but you need to surround yourself with others who can help you on your path. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, it's a problem if you're the smartest person in the room. You need to be continuously surrounding yourself with people who know better, who can help you do better. And so having those support systems become super important. And when I first ran my first financial fitness workshop at the Waterfront with 4 people, I'd met this lady called Gwen Kloppers, who was running a women's networking event called Extraordinary Women. And I just spoke to her about it. I said, this is what I would like to do. And she said, let's do it. I was scared. I was completely frightened. I'd never done that. I was in South Africa, in Cape Town. And yet we had 4 people and we were super proud of it. So you've got to start, but look for a good support system of people who can help you. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Le. I mean, oh man, there's a lot there. So I see your hand, Isaac. You wanna put on your mic and ask your question?
Yeah, a quick one. So my name is Isaac. Don't call me Isaac Vu.
Okay.
I run a company called Buddy Box. I'm based in Johannesburg. We more like your sales, warehousing, and logistics business, focusing really on a wholesale and retail space. I have a, and I don't know if this question would be directed to the presenter directly or any of the takers who spoke before. Would you agree if an entrepreneur was to say that there's a total disconnect between entrepreneurs and evaluators of business plans who are either sitting in government or sitting in banks or any FDIs, if you like, that you're dealing with entrepreneurs. We're supposed to be, we risk takers. We go out there, we go getters. And you're dealing with somebody with a totally different mindset, who's totally risk averse, who looks at a business plan and actually looks at more reasons why they are not supposed to be assisting you instead of looking at how they should actually help you. Would you agree with a sentiment like that?
Boo, do you want to go first with that?
I put myself on mute, sorry. I mean, thanks for the question. I think let me go first, Le, because, since you're signing checks these days,
yes.
You get a lot more of this kind of questions. So, I've got a lot to say about this particular question, but go ahead, Le.
Cool. I think that it's important for you as an entrepreneur to understand two things. One, what type of financing do you actually need for your business, and so who to go to. There's different types of financing for entrepreneurs, and so you need to think about the stage of your business, but also what you actually need the money for, because this helps you see what type of financing you need. For example, not everybody needs equity investment, right? Not everybody needs that. And so we get sometimes business profiles that are coming to us saying, invest in my business or shareholding, and it's not the type of business profile that needs that type of financing. Some people need money because there's a shortfall in a payment, or the payment has taken longer. You don't need equity financing for things like that. Or I want to expand my warehouse. You don't need equity financing for things like that. So there's different types of financing. What you might just need is an overdraft, to help you bridge a gap that you might be going through between one payment to another. What you might need is a loan. Sometimes you could even get financing from family and friends. They become a critical source of finance, as long as you don't let them down. Pay them back so that they can lend you again when you need it. And so knowing and understanding what type of financing you need is important. But two, it's getting your application to speak to what the financiers want. Unfortunately, the person that owns the golden goose owns the golden egg. So how do you position your business in order to speak to particular requirements? And yes, I hear you. There's certain things around maybe applying for loans, and banks are asking you for collateral when you're an SME. Those are really unfair, and you just feel like this whole system is rigged against us. But you can be creative in how you position your applications to speak to the finances issues. Like what is, and at the end of the day, it's people who are signing those documents. And if you're able to position yourself and pitch yourself right, keep knocking on different doors, you will find one door that matches the type of financing that you actually need. Vu, you may add.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to echo the same sentiment, but I want to put it very differently and rather bluntly, I think, on my side. The first thing that I think everybody must understand is nobody owes you the money. Nobody owes the responsibility, not even our government. I've been from conversations about money. Reality that nobody owes that you, and to avoid the avenues for raising funding. Some are smarter than others. Some are more better fit. Some are more prevalent than others. The income fact really relies on the leader or the CEO, the person running that particular business. So a lack of knowledge is not a justifiable reason. Again, even this coming weekend, I'm hosting an investment readiness workshop, and Lee, as I've done one even for startup circles. So again, in that workshop, even though it's an hour, I really kind of ram, all the different types of aspects that one can go into. But I literally could go further. I could stretch. Just even this morning, I was who turned down an investment of some $70,000 into his company because his valuation, the company valuation value. There's so many ways or so many things he's done to adjust the context of how that valuation was validated, even for himself. Because they need that cash, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you come out on the other side. I think a few of these situations in the context of South Africa is that the majority of funding is done by banks, and again, that's a problem. And it's maybe because of things like that motivate people in Lelemba to join the VC in your community. Guys, unfortunately, the knowledge of the environment is that it's very early in this process. But more than anything that needs to happen up front is that businesses and funders must appreciate the no investor of venture capital but a money tree in the house. The man who manifests in front of you with someone seemingly has a sense that you can give them money. You want to appreciate that someone has taken the time to understand that an investment is a two-sided street. It's important that you communicate the vesting and value of your company in terms of what you can do, okay? And as simple as ease or as having a search work you combine more kind of in this case. That is ultimately you don't have the confidence in show you impact. The second is that anyone invests much your business, regardless of bank and DI, they'll take something back for the investment, okay? It's not just giving away money. And the notion somehow that there's gonna be someone willing to take a risk on your business purely for the fact that they've got money. Back again. So we've even missed the boat in terms of misused and underutilized. My advice to any Black entrepreneur, and we're going to work on this, is really kind of improve the context of understanding how your business should be funded, B, getting the right amount of help and advisors in terms of advising how best to position your business for investment or for being banked. All else said, there are other ways of raising money that don't involve raising money, like selling product to a customer. It's the longest, most painful way of doing it, but sometimes the frictionless way to doing it in terms of making sure that you make good profits in your business. It's slow, takes time, it's difficult, but it still is the most effective way of getting it done. I see a question left from Freddie. Freddie, do you want to switch on your mic? Sorry about that drop for a second. So hopefully it's come back. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, Bru, how are you? Thanks.
I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Do you hear me, Bru?
You should be able to hear me. All right.
Go ahead, Phiri. We can hear you.
Yes, thanks for.
We can hear you, Freddie. Go ahead.
I've got one question. Firstly, I'm Freddie Sbui, the Chief Executive for Fred & Sons Maintenance Engineering. My company, we're in a space of engineering. We're doing consultation in electrical and mechanical engineering and also doing contracting part of that. So I just felt so privileged to join this and finally listening to the very strong woman like this. I mean, it really took a a village to raise her to this point. My question is one. I'm struggling and dreaming of growing my business to the point of being an asset of value business, whereby I need to build the systems in the business only to work with or without me, because my vision for this business is very big. I need to know exactly from Lelemba that what trait that drove you and which is still driving you into this field of entrepreneurship in a way that finally you never given up and you're still on the field and still dreaming to be on the field. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Freddie. That's a good question. I think if you really care about something and you care about the problem that you are tackling, it helps you have a lot more longevity on your journey. We find that sometimes in entrepreneurship, there are certain entrepreneurs who get into entrepreneurship because somebody said, in this particular thing, there is money. So you get in there because there's money, you're going to make money. But money is not just going to be the thing that is going to keep you, because you are going to face so many obstacles. You're going to find so many no's. Lots of doors will be closed in front of your face, and you have to care a little bit more than just that. And so if you are dealing with a problem or trying to contribute to a particular field that you really care about and that you're passionate about, I think that really makes the difference for how long you last. And even when you're doing something you love, and even if you're in a space where you are really passionate, you will have moments of discouragement, but at least knowing that it is something that you care about, that you are working towards, makes that journey slightly easier. And so for me, I've had that golden thread of being passionate about finding ways of empowering women at a bigger and bigger and bigger scale. And I've walked it step by step. With wherever I was, with whatever I had. I never waited for the big money or the ability to be able to write a big check, you know. When I was starting my first small job in that photo shop, I was thinking about how do I just employ more girls, you know, get more girls to get a job. Getting into corporate, I was thinking about how do we have more women in leadership, more women in this industry, in the oil industry, because I saw that the wealth of experience there was great. You could get so much experience so quickly in a field like that. Getting into entrepreneurship, I was thinking about opportunities for women to start their own businesses, and now in investing, you know. And so wherever you are with whatever you have, you can work on the problem that you're passionate about, and you can keep increasing your ability to impact when you kind of stick to it. But it is, number one, starting with something that you actually are passionate about, because the going will get tough. You can be guaranteed of that. And then you will have the great moments as well. So find the space that you're passionate about. It helps you with longevity. Yeah.
Okay, Fred, I hope that covers you on that side, brother.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm covered.
Awesome. I do apologize again for just dropping off for a second there. My connection was a bit poor. We have rain in Cape Town, so sometimes it happens. Leah, what I want to do is maybe just in context around one of the things I wanted to talk about is, you know, do you have any daily rituals that you follow? Because you've got a lot going on. You know, what happens in your headspace that you feel are the things that ground you to be able to juggle everything that you've got going on?
Okay. I prioritize and I preserve a lot of energy. One of the things that I'm really ruthless with is where I'm investing my time and where I'm investing my energy, because unlike money, which you can use and make again, you can't do that with time, and your energy is a lot more difficult to replenish if you're investing it in things that are exhausting you. And so being deliberate about where I invest my time, this includes which friends I'm hanging out with. I try and avoid wet blanket environments where everybody's just a naysayer, because that drains me personally. I know that there are people who enjoy those environments sometimes. It's not for me. So surrounding myself with family is really important. There's nothing more humbling, I think, than some of the conversations I have with my children. You know, I could come off a very big stage and I get home and the only question is, what's for dinner? So it always helps me keep grounded. And so surrounding myself with family is important for me. You know, focusing on the things that really matter. I love learning and I love reading. And so if you're thinking about my profile and you say, how is it possible to also add in studies around a PhD? I could be using that time surfing Facebook for half the day, which a lot of people do, or I could be using that time researching something that I'm really passionate about. And so being very, very deliberate about where I invest my time and my energy has been a saving grace for me. And sometimes it's seen as selfish, but I take it as self-care.
Brilliant. And before I allow you kind of a closing thought, I just want to ask, is there any particular, I don't know, Bible verse or quote or motto that ultimately has shaped your life that you maybe live by?
As far as Bible verses are concerned, it's the one that says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, and plans to give you hope for a future. That's been the Bible verse of my life from my teenage years, when I was feeling a little bit lost, when I just lost my mother. It has anchored my belief in that whatever I'm thinking and I'm planning, that the bigger power, God, the universe, however you would like to call our greater power, has got even bigger plans for me. And it anchors me to just keep moving. You know, even if I'm putting one brick at a time, I know that there is a bigger plan for me. And so I keep moving. So that's helped me.
And just to put you on the spot, as we move into Women's Month next month, what can you do for the community? What should the community do for you? Just quickly. I know you want to do big things, but what is the one big thing we can do for you going into Women's Month next month?
I'd love for some wonderful women from this network to actually get onto startupcircles.ai. I'm trying to increase the number of women that are getting access to entrepreneurship education and getting access to expertise and mentors. And so the more women we can get onto that platform, the better. The minute we opened up Startup Circles, somehow, I think maybe more men were Googling. And so I'm trying to push for more women as usual. So that's what you can do for me from this network, is push it to more women. I might have some scholarships for them for Women's Month as well. So that's
now also. Yeah. So we'll push out the message and make sure that it happens. Again, I want to say on behalf of myself and Hyper Group, and on behalf of the team at SM Tax, Mutule and Bongiwe, thank you so much. We really appreciate this. There's just so many rich kind of nuggets of value that again we want to unpack. And this is part of our plan, guys. So it's part of our plan. Literally, each of these sessions easily becomes a multi-structured and multi-tiered kind of context of conversation. And the next time you get to enjoy time with Lelemba, it won't be on this platform like we keep saying. We want to evolve things. So again, as she said, the best way to kind of get through is if you are raising capital and you happen to be a fast-growing, exciting company based in SADC region, reach out to her. But at the same time, if you're looking to kind of gain some entrepreneurial training and entrepreneurial skills, head out to startupcircles.ai and sign up for a program or course. I'm sure you won't regret it. So thank you, Lelemba, for your time. And again, as we look ahead in the last kind of 1 minute, Bongi, if you can move ahead very briskly. We've got our next session with Legal Eagle, Yole Lwasukunyana, which will be on the 23rd, and she'll be speaking about people do business with people with contracts. That should be another kind of insightful kind of session. Not so much focusing on too much around the legal elements, but certainly Uyolela would welcome your questions and your feedback and your input with regards to legal questions or legal inquiries that you guys want to be dealt with. But more than just that, I think she's going to cover a lot of the principles and the mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs make in getting themselves into trouble with legal. So remember to go out to the SMTax website /COVID-19 to RSVP, and that particular invite will go out as well. Or send an email to webinars@smtax.co.za for details for that event, especially if you want to be included. Yolelo is both an author and a specialist with 15 years of legal experience, and she'll be covering mainly the principles, just like Lelemba has done, without giving you guys too much advice around, again, how else you can do it. That's to encourage you to reach out and to connect the dots where you need the help you need. So again, with that, I want to thank everybody for having joined and taking the time to join the call. The call is being recorded, so we will share the video link to all of those that RSVP'd. It's also been broadcast on Facebook for the overflow of those who weren't able to join the call this evening. But with that in mind, I know Leah's got a family to feed, Bongi's got a family to feed. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Let's go and enjoy the rest of our evening. Please keep safe as well, and all the best in getting through this period. And this is why these sessions are here for, to make sure that everybody knows that there's a network, a community of other entrepreneurs that is very interested in supporting you through this challenging time. Thanks to everybody, and thanks to the team at SMTax and Hyber for having made it possible. Good night, everybody. See you on the 23rd.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.